So I spent the last 1,000 days trying to build a profitable marketing agency. So if you don't mind, let's start at the very beginning. 5 years ago, I was desperate for money. Growing up in the lower middle class, I often felt limited, frustrated, because I couldn't really do any of the things I liked because we lacked money. My mother was working a dangerous night job as nursing assistant to provide for my younger sister and I. Alongside with her other female co-workers, they had to take care of very violent patients, thugs that got into knife fights, drug dealers, convicted felons, so as you can see, not exactly the friendly type. And with only one single security guard for the whole building, as you can probably guess, shit was bound to happen. Sometimes it would even happen that one of the patients would get angry and start insulting, even hitting one of the nurses. Now when it comes to my father, as a kid and as a teen, I had a very shitty relationship with him. At work, he was treated like a commodity. He profoundly despised this job, and that, along with many other things, made him miserable, depressed, alcoholic. We'd often get into heated arguments, and sometimes he'd get physically violent with me. So that's essentially the sort of environment I grew up in. So I saw firsthand what working a job that you hate just to pay your bills and taxes, only to be underpaid and have no recognition, does to a person. It takes the life energy out of you. So I knew I needed to do better. I needed to find an alternative way to make money, but not only to make money, but also to be free, to be in control of my time, to be able to work from anywhere in the world and do what I love. So it's not the money itself I was chasing, it was freedom. Being able to wake up in the morning excited for the day ahead instead of being worried because I have to go work some 9 to 5 that I hate, just because I have to, because we need to survive. And I'm not even joking when I say that every single day I would hear my parents complaining about the price of food, like bread or lettuce. And on the one hand, I could see my family struggling to get by. I would watch my parents breaking their back only to be treated like shit and to earn breadcrumbs, while I could see these wealthy kids at school getting driven in brand new Porsches and BMWs. Every year, I would see them getting a brand new iPhone from their parents, while at the time, I didn't even have a phone. After the summer break, they would tell stories about their vacations to Greece, to Rome, to New York City, and it felt inspiring, but also very frustrating, because growing up, we never did any of these things with my family. We simply couldn't afford it. And at the time, it was my dream to join the Special Forces, because I wanted an action-filled job, and I wanted to feel useful. Up until the day, everything in my life changed radically. I learned two very upsetting things. The first is that my mother got diagnosed with cancer, and the second was that I couldn't actually join the Special Forces no matter how hard I would try because of medical issues. So I felt like everything in my life was just falling apart. I was scared to death to lose my mother, and I knew my father couldn't have handled that loss. And that's when the thought of becoming financially free, of making more money, started to become very present in my mind. In fact, I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that 99% of our problems would instantly go away if we only had more money. We could afford the best clinics, the best treatments, the best doctors for my mother to increase her chances of winning the fight against cancer. My father could have quit his job, which would have completely transformed him as an individual. He could have fallen in love with life again, followed his passion, and we could finally spend money freely and stop worrying about the price of gas, electricity, or groceries. Now, the fact that my mother got diagnosed with cancer gave me the kick in the ass I needed, and because I promised my mother I would always be there to take care of my younger sister, to provide for her if needed, I couldn't just let her down and break my promise. And that's the day I realized becoming successful was my mission. I realized it was my duty as a son to give back to my mother what she gave to us, and to prove to my father that he too could achieve his dreams, that he didn't have to wake up every day and work a job he hates. And it was also my duty as older brother to make sure that my sister would never have to go through the hell I went through, and that no matter what happens, I would always be there to provide for her. So I started doing some research. I had to figure this thing out, and it's not like I had multi-millionaires in my inner circle guiding me and showing me the way. I grew up in a tiny town, less than 10,000 people, with no real career opportunities. Now I knew I wasn't going to aim for a high-paying career. Why? Because I've always hated school and university in general. And not only that, but good degrees, good universities cost a lot of money, and I didn't want to put that burden on my parents. And to be completely honest, I also didn't want to end up like my father, having a job I hate, no matter how much money it makes, just to pay bills and taxes. Because sure, you could be making 6 figures a year, but if you work 80 hours a week for the rest of your life, how much of life do you really get to enjoy when you work that much? It's like you make more money, but because you work so much, you don't even get time to spend that money. That doesn't make sense. Now when I was in high school, I got a taste of what it felt to work a 9 to 5 job just to pay your expenses. I was forced to do many internships because of school, so I literally did internships in restaurants, I did internships in literally grocery stores, phone repair companies, that kind of businesses. And I also did an internship for a business that essentially hired other people for big companies. And the kind of people they hired, it was the sort of people that works in a factory. So they would get up at 5 just to go work at a factory to provide for their family. So I knew for a fact I didn't want to have that kind of job. Those people were miserable. I could see them walking into the office with that dreaded look on their faces. And every time I did these internships, I wasn't even paid, and I felt fucking miserable. My dream was to wake up in the morning knowing I have more than enough, and I can not only live a good life myself, but also provide for my family. I wanted to experience freedom in abundance like I never had before. But for a while, I didn't even know you could start an online business. Now this might sound a bit crazy, but I came across the concept of starting an online business when I was only 11 years old. And that's because one day I decided to type how to get rich on YouTube. I stumbled upon a video by an online entrepreneur who explained how he made $72,000 in the previous month with his online business while he was traveling the world. I could barely believe what I was seeing. I had never heard of people making money online before while traveling, but nevertheless, I saw an opportunity. So I decided to do some digging and to get started. Now, I didn't start an agency immediately because I didn't even know that was a thing. So at first I tried growing Instagram theme pages to sell shoutouts, but that didn't exactly work. And then I stumbled upon a business model called dropshipping. At the time, it was sold as the best business model for beginners, but when you analyze it in depth, you realize that's not the case. It's probably one of the worst business models to start for beginners. And because a friend of mine wanted to invest in an expensive 2.5k dropshipping course at the time, I agreed to work with him. So we built a Shopify store around a trendy product, which was, funny enough, a flat squeeze mop at the time, and we launched some Facebook ads campaign with no previous experience in paid ads. I remember just finish up some work on the ad, clicking on the button to launch it, to set it live, and then I went to the living room to have dinner with my family. And when I came back to my room, I noticed dozens of WhatsApp notifications because my friend was going crazy. We had gotten a sale. I couldn't even believe it. We made $50 selling a flat squeeze mop within 30 minutes of launching our first ad ever. I was honestly shaking in excitement. My heart was beating so fast in my chest, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Now, I had a feeling this would be too good to be true, and indeed it was. Sure, we earned $50, but we spent close to $200 on ads, and that didn't even include the cost of the physical product and the shipping, as well as the softwares such as Shopify. And at the time, because we were both broke high school students, it's not like we could afford to lose hundreds of dollars per day on ads until we figured it out, so we had to stop dropshipping with paid ads. Now later on, we tried dropshipping with organic marketing. To get customers, I would basically reach out to small Instagram influencers between 500 followers up to 5,000 followers and ask them if they wanted to become our affiliates to promote our brand. They would receive a special discount code branded to them, and every time a follower would make a purchase using their code, they would get 10% as a commission. Now, I didn't expect it to go anywhere or to see any results, but within 3 days of starting, we made $100 with no money spent on paid ads. So around 50% of it was actually profit. But the truth is, I messed up that business because at the time, I had severe shiny object syndrome. I would always see the competition, what they were selling, and I wanted to copy them every single time. So I would convince my friend to close down our current Shopify store, to copy the competition and sell what they were selling instead. And that went on for months. We literally sold like flat squeeze mops, fitness clothes for women, Japanese hoodies, bracelets, acupressure mats, and the list goes on and on. At some point, we decide to stop because I can't stick to anything, so what's the point? Every time I make a bit of progress, I sabotage it immediately. And now looking back, I think that the reason why I couldn't actually stick to anything while I was doing dropshipping was because deep down, that's not the business I wanted to work on. I knew I wanted to provide more value to people than simply reselling crappy, overpriced AliExpress products on a pretty website. And it also felt very frustrating because I knew that just to make $10,000 per month with that business, we would need to get hundreds, if not thousands of sales because costs are so high. And then we'd need to pay taxes as a company and then taxes as an individual again. So to actually have $10,000 in your pocket when you have a business model like dropshipping, oh my god, the amount of work required is insane. And that's exactly why 99% of people fail. Every day, I get people on calls telling me they tried dropshipping, but they lost a lot of money. It never worked for any of them. So I did some research and I stumbled upon selling services and consulting online. I immediately fell in love with that business model. It was the only real, legitimate online business that could actually print you lots of money, even if you were a complete beginner with no previous experience or skills. Forget about completing online surveys to make money, or Amazon FBA, or investing into crypto, but instead, if I were to sell services, I could charge anywhere from $500 up to $5,000 per month per customer. So with only a few customers, I would already be making a living. If you get 5 customers to pay you $2,000, you're now making $10,000 per month. And most of that is profit. You can have as high as 98% profit margins because there are so few costs. So I tried to start my first consulting business ever, which at the time was a performance coaching offer for entrepreneurs.
How to scale to 6 and 7 figures and even beyond
by optimizing your performance and health. To tell you the truth, I stole the idea from a successful competitor. I thought that surely if somebody else was doing that successfully, making 6 figures a year with it, I could do the same. But the truth is, I didn't know anything about consulting or selling services. I didn't even know where to begin. And on top of that, because of traumatic events from my past, I was so scared I couldn't even take the first step and reach out to prospects. So I spent 7 full months hating myself because I was unable to overcome my fears. Now later on, I discovered a guy called Sam Ovens, and at the time, he was the king of selling services and consulting online, so he had an online course. So I joined the program, and honestly, I was shocked at how good it was compared to all other training programs I had ever been in. And in his mindset training, he taught a concept that changed my life. He explained that you needed to reinvent yourself, become a different version of yourself in order to actually become successful. Because think about this, the unsuccessful version of you is very different to who you will be when you actually make $10,000 per month. You won't think the same way, you won't have the same habits, you won't have the same knowledge. So in order to make $10,000 per month, it's not like it's going to happen on its own. So you have to become the person who can make $10,000 per month. And at the time, remember, I was so anxious, I couldn't even reach out to leads. Do you seriously think that the version of me who was successful making $10,000 per month was too anxious to go on sales calls or to even just reach out to prospects? Obviously not. The 10k per month version of me would do that effortlessly. He'd do it every day, in fact. That's when I told myself, you know what? I'm sick and tired of acting like a scared little boy. I have so many ambitions, so many dreams. I want to prove my parents, my sister, that it's possible to become successful online, and I want to make them proud. I want to be able to enjoy life and never worry about money ever again. So I told myself, I am going to force myself to do one thing that scares me every single day. And that's exactly what I did. I started forcing myself to reach out to potential customers. If I was afraid to cold call a stranger, I'd do it. After all, I was in a shitty situation. I had no money, so what did I have to lose? The fear of losing something was only an illusion. You can't lose anything when you have nothing. Now, I got my first booked call with a prospect from Instagram DMs. But while the guy seemed very interested, he didn't even show up to the meeting. So my first sales call was actually a no-show. But I didn't give up. Now, at the time, I was so anxious, I also couldn't even go for a walk. Literally just leave my parents' house. But one day, I just grabbed my running shoes and I went outside. And I sent a picture and a video to my best friend of me doing that because I knew it would be a crazy achievement. I knew one day I'd tell the story. He literally congratulated me for going outside, for taking a walk. That's how anxious I was back then. So in the span of a few years, I went from literally not knowing what to do with my life, not even knowing how to book a meeting. My first meeting was a no-show, and I couldn't even go for a walk outside, to now making upwards of $1,000 a day and booking between 90 to 150 meetings per month with qualified leads. And you seriously think you can't succeed? If you had met me 5 years ago, you would have told me, dude, you're never gonna achieve anything. So because I gained more confidence, and with my newfound knowledge of selling services and consulting, I decided to sell a different offer and to start a proper business this time. I wasn't going to let myself procrastinate for 7 months because of fear. I had enough. So since I needed to figure out a way to book meetings for my business, I figured, what if I offered lead generation services to book appointments for other business owners? So that's exactly what I did. I started to learn from successful people to figure out how to book meetings even without paid advertising. If you sort my videos by oldest on this YouTube channel, you will see back in September 2022, the first videos I posted, they were actually video sales letters that I would send some of my prospects. This is proof right here of what we are able to accomplish. This is the booked sales calls for 1 week of August, in the beginning of August. As you can see, we have a sales call every single day. And then this is the tracker in Excel that we use to keep track of all the people who said, yep, I'm interested to hear more about what you have to offer. And as you can see, in yellow, it's the amount of people who booked the call. And of course, there's lots of scrolling to do if you want to see all of the leads, but this is just a snapshot of it. And here's some more proof again. Someone said, hey, I scheduled for tomorrow at 5:30 p.m., as you can see on Facebook. And then those are notifications of appointments about to start on Zoom. My first customer paid me $300, but then I was able to increase my prices to $2,000. So to grow my business, I started to book more meetings, to take more and more sales calls, and I also started posting more content on my YouTube, also to just document my journey and to share what I learned with ambitious people who wanted to start a business. But on sales calls and even with my customers, I noticed that sometimes they would book more meetings, but they still wouldn't make more money. So obviously the problem couldn't be booking meetings then. And I realized that lots of business owners actually needed to improve their offer, or their messaging, or they just weren't selling to the right people. Booking more meetings wasn't the only thing that made a successful service-based or consulting-based business. And that's when I transitioned from solely doing done-for-you work to help business owners book more meetings to teaching them how to book meetings. And I also started to make, again, more content on socials. And in the span of a few short months, we were able to generate 42 million views across all social media platforms, starting with no audience. So not that bad for a guy who was so anxious he couldn't even leave his parents' house. Nowadays, I book between 80 to 150 meetings per month with qualified leads. And I'm not even famous. I don't even have 3,000 subscribers at the time I'm making this video. And I have less than 100 subs on Insta. Now, if you're a beginner and you'd like to start selling services or consulting, but you have no clue where to start, I've recorded a free training in which I share with you everything I did step by step to have my first $1,000 day in sales at 21. That way, you can literally just copy me. And if you're an agency owner, a coach, or a consultant, and you would like me to show you how you can copy-paste my automated system that brings me 150 plus qualified meetings per month with no ad spend, no cold outreach, and no appointment setters, check out the link in the description below. Now, if you're ready to talk business, you can directly book a free call with me or my team, and we'll see if we can help you to build or to scale your business. All the links will be in the description below. That being said, if you could relate to my story, share it with a friend. And together, let's blow up this YouTube channel and empower ambitious individuals across the globe to become financially free.